Welcome to Worktapes. This is a podcast where we tear apart songs. Why was the song written? What's it about? What's the context and emotion behind it? Where were you at the time? What were you going through? How did certain lines come to you? What's the inspiration? How long did it take to write? I'm Brandon Carswell, and I'm fascinated with songwriting and how songs are built from the ground up. It's easy to hear a full production song on the radio and dismiss its origin story. I want to hear the rough draft of the song, or the worktape. I want to explore the very beginning of how songs that move us and make us move are born.
Rosalee, prettiest leaf on your family tree. Tell me a secret when you close your eyes, baby. Tell me, what world do you see? Rosalee, sometimes this feeling takes over me. You feel it too, was I holding you, baby? Or maybe it's you holding me. Rosalee, darling, please give my love to your mama, darling.
Cool. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Worktapes. I'm Brandon Carswell. Today we are joined by a indie singer-songwriter with, he's got like a signature feel-good indie rock sound, super poppy, super catchy. He's shared the stage with artists like Dave Barnes, Thad Cockrell, Jason Mraz, Ben Rector, Gavin DeGraw, I'm sure a ton more. He's kind of made his way and secured his spot among the best in songwriting. And his latest album is called Recently, produced by one of my best friends, Micah Talks. Today we're going to discuss this song, Rosalee, and listen to the work tape. Matt Wertz, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's awesome. Appreciate it.
I remember when Micah was showing me your record, and I went, he showed me a couple of songs, and then I went and listened to the whole thing when it came out, and I love that album.
Dude, thanks. I do too.
It's like, I was going to wait for this part, but I'm going to say it now. Like it's a little bit of I would say it's a lot of a departure from your earlier works.
Yeah.
Like it's a different sound, but it's still you.
Yeah. That's what I hope to do. Always, you know, I like that about being a solo artist, is that it seems like you can kind of, pick your band every time I make a record. I feel like I get to pick my band, you know, and, you know, I've never said that I never like imagined that I would be a producer in any, sort of way, but the way that I produce is I pick the people that I want to work with, and I pick, you know, I am kind of like pulling the different, whether it's art, photographer, like design, all of these things together to like make a thing. And Micah's name kept showing up in credits of stuff that I loved. Yeah. And I don't think I'd met him before, and realized that, my old manager had worked with him on Jordy Searcy. He did a couple tracks for Jordy. Yeah. So he connected me with Micah, and I did a meeting with Micah, and I'd met with a couple other producers as well. And I just felt like very, like a connection with Micah. Yeah. And it just continued. We did a couple of songs to like try it out. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, I knew after like the first day that I wanted to keep.
He's great to work. He's easy to work with. He's brilliant. I
know. And I've just like, granted, anytime that I work with somebody for the first time, there's a big, like, it's like scary to like give, you know, because I don't know. I know that he's done cool stuff for other people.
Sure.
But I'm like, it is. And I just had to like really actively, like at times surrender, like, hey, This
Do
guy
you
knows
ever
what he's
wonder
doing.
what the producers are like? It's a new guy you're not sure about. You're like, I wonder if he likes this. Does that
Totally.
matter to you?
Totally. Yeah, it matters. I worked on a record that, I did a record with a producer that just didn't, show much emotion. And yeah, it was really hard for me. Like I'd come from making records with Ed Cash, early in my career, who like just gets pumped, you know, you can tell, and that energy just feeds you,
Yes.
feeds me.
Yeah.
And like, it's just like, all right. And so it was tough to like feel like I was like yelling into a pillow, you know, there was like there was no one on the other side of the net to hit the ball back to me.
Yeah.
Like, this is really tough. But that was
so
not
hard.
the case with Micah
Yeah.
at all. I mean, and it was a joy. And if I could afford him again, I would totally work with him.
Oh,
but
man.
like ever since we made that record, his like cost has just kept going up. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'm ever going to recoup this record. I mean, I will, but it'll be a while. And I'm like, I can't justify.
I kind of say the same thing. I've done some stuff with him, and I would love to do more. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us that know and have worked with him say the same thing. But he's sought after, so
Yeah,
he's
it's
worth
good.
it. It's not like, I don't feel like he's too expensive at all.
No.
I think he's worth every penny.
I agree. I just can't afford it. It's for
okay.
somebody else now.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Let's get into who is Matt Wertz. Like, where did you come from? Where did you start? So people, you know, our listeners that may not know your name or your background, this is the first time I've actually met you. So I would like to know,
Cool.
how did the music begin? Where did you go as far back as you want?
Great. Grew up in a suburb of Kansas City called Liberty, Missouri. I'm the oldest of 4. I've got 3 younger sisters. My mom led worship in our non-denominational Christian church growing up. So she had like, it's got an old Yamaha acoustic guitar that was like her good guitar that like I wasn't really allowed to touch until I, you know, knew what to do with it. So that honestly, pretty early on became like a motivator to like, I want to be able to play that. Actually, funny story. I'm like childhood good friends with James DeWeese, who is Reggie in the Full Effect. And he was in the Get Up Kids and Good Charlotte. And but at the time, I mean, James was just like, you know, we were like brothers. But James early on could play like everything. And so my mom let him play her guitar, but she wouldn't let me play it. And I'm like, I want to play that guitar.
That's not fair.
It's not fair. So I you know, fast forward, I think I started learning on her guitar. I was like, my 16th birthday, I got a Gibson Marauder electric guitar. It looks like a Les Paul shape, but it's flat. It has a maple. It was a mahogany, natural mahogany finish, but then the fretboard was maple, and it had a Flying V looking headstock. It was a very cool guitar. Yeah. And that was like, so I started playing that. I started learning all sorts of like, you know, like lightning crashes, like how to get the chorus sound on the guitar, and Pearl Jam and Counting Crows, and like totally like a student of and fan of like 90s alt rock, you know? But I didn't write a song until I went to college my freshman year, and I got my first good acoustic guitar, which was a Taylor 312 CE. And you know, it just sounded different, and it was easy to play, and you play an E chord, and it's like all these songs just came out because it sounded so good. And I was also like, you know, processing through like being on my own for the first time, and having kind of the space to figure out who I am. And, you know, in the context of like a dorm dormitory, there's like, it's, you know, you can hear what's going on next door. So people would hear me playing guitar and sing, and like, you know, this was before like everybody had a guitar, and was like, people would gravitate towards guitar guy. And, and I kind of gained confidence through that, and gradually started like sharing the songs that I wrote, and it just kind of kept building. I studied industrial design in college, which is product design, and throughout college, music, writing songs, performing, that became my real passion. And I had a band in college called Damascus Road, which was my attempt at being like covertly like Christian, but I never wanted to be like a Christian artist. Yeah, my wife says like, you think that name was covert? Damascus Road, that's the most like, you know. So I wanted, you know, I was into Caedmon's Call and Jars of Clay and Waterdeep and all these like, all of those were the types of like Christian artists that I like, you know, they told the truth. And I was like, I really relate with your with what you're sharing, like about like whether it's like you feeling like experiencing doubt or just any kind of pain. I didn't connect with like the music of, you know, that like I grew up on, which was kind of just like presenting all the good things about like all the gifts of being a Christian. I was like, what about how it's still is hard to be a human, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I kind of just wanted to do that for people, you know. I wanted to be honest and vulnerable, and then have that be a connection point, and then hopefully like help other people to feel like it was okay to be themselves, and and to think those things, feel those things too. So that set me on a trajectory to like, that's all I wanted to do. And I did a lot of Young Life. I grew up in Young Life, which is a non-denominational like Christian outreach to high school kids. I was like, as a high school kid, I went to weekly Young Life club, and then in college I was a volunteer leader. I was even a part-time staff person my senior year. I got paid to do Young Life, and then they have camps all over the country. And when I was in high school, I went to camp, and there was a camp musician there, and who was amazing at what they did. And it was like another angle, another entry point into like hearing someone's story. Mm-hmm. And the person that I saw, I saw two different people. My first time I saw this guy, Mitch Dane, who's in Nashville now, making records for people, and then Ed Cash. And I saw Ed.
What years was this?
That would have been like 95, 96.
Okay. Yeah.
And 2 different summers. So as soon as I like started writing and singing songs, I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to go to a camp, and I just want to hang out with high school kids and play the songs that I've written. And I got to do that for a lot of years. And it was like the best. It was like the best. It was such what's the word when two points meet? You know, it was like the Venn diagram of like what I was good at, and then like and also like it just felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. And and through that, I built a following, you know, like all over the Midwest. And then into Colorado, like, all these kids would come home with my CD, which at that time was a record called Some Days that I made with my old Young Life leader, Steve Wilson, who had moved to Nashville and is a writer, producer. And yeah, dude, it was amazing. I paid off. It was a very low budget record, and I was able to pay that off after my first summer. And then I moved to Nashville, and except for like a couple of like freelance websites that I built, I never had to get another job.
Kids will buy some records.
They bought CDs. That was in 2001. Mm-hmm. And for several years, CDs were great.
Yeah.
You know, and then iTunes downloads, and that was also great.
Okay. So let's go all the way back. Why were you interested in music? So you grew up, your mom did worship music in the church, but what was your spark? Like, what was the moment where you were like, oh, there's something here that is appealing to me? And what was that?
Well, early on, it was Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
me too, by the way.
Dude,
when I was little,
how can you avoid? My parents weirdly gave me Thriller on vinyl for Easter like one year.
I had Bad. My parents had that on vinyl.
It's so good.
Yeah. So good.
It's so good. It's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also, yeah. So Michael Jackson was early.
But was it the music, or were you like, I want to be that guy?
I think I wanted to be that guy, but I also loved, like, I wanted to, move. I loved to dance. I wanted to like dance like him. You still love to dance according to your Instagram feed. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a horrible dancer. I just let the music move through me.
That's right. That's what you're supposed to do.
Rhythm as a dancer.
There's no rules, man.
So I do love to dance, and I think that was the first thing. And then I think in high school or middle school, it's probably junior high, that's when like Pearl Jam and Nirvana happened. And I still remember like seeing Pearl Jam for the first time. I was my family was on we didn't have cable TV growing up, like, because it was, honestly, I don't blame my folks for it. Like, it's probably like saying like, we're not going to do iPads in our house, So we didn't have cable TV, but we went to a family reunion. We stayed in this motel in the like middle of Western Kansas, and they had cable TV in the motel. And I remember like my family going to like eat in the motel restaurant. And I'm like, I'll be right there. And when they left, I turned on MTV and I saw the video. I saw Even Flow, and I was like, what is this? Like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I think I was like, that's so interesting that like grunge rock pulls you in to the music that you ended up doing. I think it was I believed it. Right. And that's still a thing for me. Like, I've got to believe that the singer means it. And if a voice is like full of like yearning and longing, and like, I'm like, yeah, I believe it. That person's like, they're not lying, and I'm drawn to that. And I think I was drawn to that back then, especially when I felt like maybe, some of the like Christian music that was being like offered up to me, I'm like, just felt a little disingenuous or something. Right. Yeah. So I think I was like, they might be like not Christians or whatever, but like they are I at least believe them. So your early stuff was pretty spot on Christian. My music? Yeah. What I made? Yeah. It wasn't. Starting out? No, it wasn't actually. I kind of knew early on that was not something for me. I didn't want the responsibility, I think, right. And I also didn't see any reason why you'd want to like limit your audience. Sure. To say like, this is for this audience of people. Now it worked for like a Young Life crowd, because there were like, I was definitely writing songs about God. I just didn't use like overt language. Christianese. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, how much of your faith still informs your writing? That's a good question. I think that, or do you think that much about it? I guess I probably don't think that much about it. Like, if it hits you, you'll write it. But I've also I've kind of had a reckoning recently that, not to throw out or, make a reference to my album title, which is of the same name recently. I've realized that I need to kind of reconnect with the thing that made me want to start writing in the first place, which is to connect with myself first and foremost, and then, you know, for the purpose of connection with other people. And I realized that, like, as soon as I realized it was working, I wanted to make sure it still worked. And so then I just was more concerned, like my writing was more concerned about, is this going to be something that people like?
Okay.
Less than like, am I connected with it? You know what I mean?
So nowadays you're getting back to being concerned with what you think about it?
That's what I like to, that's always the goal, or at least that I'm telling the truth.
Sure. Because we all want everyone to like our music.
Yes.
And of course our music is not for everyone.
Right.
But
I think the only reason I want everybody to like my music is so that I can keep making it.
Yeah.
Would
you stop if it was like, if you had to go get another job, like a 9 to 5, would you stop writing?
I don't think I would stop writing, but I think I probably would have less time to write.
Yeah, of course.
Which might mean that I probably would write better songs, because some of the, like, my favorite memories.
That's an interesting topic.
Of writing was having like index cards in my pocket and a pen, and I was working like a summer job, like running on the maintenance crew of this apartment complex, and I would be, you know, building a rock, like a rock patio, like a decorative, like stone patio thing. And I would just have I would just have all this time for my mind to wander, and I'd like have ideas and I write it down. And now, I don't have that kind of active idle time, you know, where you're doing something else and it's like mindless work. And then your brain gets to kind of like play. And I think that that's such a, like,
it's important.
It's an important thing. It's tough too, because now with the smartphones, like, we don't have idle time, period. It's like, there's always something, unless we like deliberately put it away.
Yep.
But yeah, so who knows? Maybe it would be good for me to get another job, and one that's like manual labor or something, where I'm just like,
yeah, because that, you know, like if you have too much time, like you just said, too much idle time, you're not really, not always, but you're not always inspired.
I know.
And you're like, I'll find myself sometimes, like if I have a day off or whatever, and my kids aren't here, I just walk in the house. I'm like, what should I do?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, I could write, or I could get this done, or do this project or whatever. And then I just end up standing there for 20 minutes trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
When, like you said, like if I was working that day on some manual labor or whatever it is, the ideas start coming.
There's one, you know how Instagram is, just stuff will just pop up in your feed. And you're like, I don't know how this found me, but you know, honestly, like nine times out of 10, it's like a bullseye hit. And there was one, I can't remember. It could have also been something that my friend posted, but it was Johnny Cash talking about his songwriting process. And he was talking about how, like, I'm not really the kind of person that can say, like, all right, next Tuesday, I'm going to write a song. But if I say next Tuesday, I'm going to go to the farm and walk around, pretty good chance that next Tuesday night, I'm going to write a song.
Yes.
And so there's something of the, like, okay, so what is it that, what do I need? How do I feed myself so that I'm creating the environment that a song can grow. Right. And that's kind of becoming, I'm in this spot now that I have a 15-month-old son, and we have another one on the way in
Congrats,
July.
By the way.
Thank you. Yeah. And what is the tension that I'm feeling is that, like, it doesn't look like work for me to go and take a walk at Radnor while my wife is home with our son. But I might need to do that so that I can do my work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like trying
But you'll find those moments just in parenting. I mean, you probably already have.
Where like the idea, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got this little, are you familiar with Loog guitars?
Yeah.
The 3-string
I have
things?
3 of them.
Aren't they amazing?
Yeah.
So I'll bring Walker up to my studio, my little writing office, and my wife gave me one of those for Father's Day, the Father's Day that we were pregnant with Walker, but he hadn't been born yet. So like we kind of celebrated Mother's Day and Father's Day with, while he was in utero. And so it's his guitar, it will be someday, but I'll play on that and, while like with him and have him play, and ideas will come all the time,
Yep.
It's just a matter of kind of,
I'll tell you a trick I used when early on. I told you my kids are 10 and 13 right now. Early on when it was like baby phase and like everything's just like kind of chaos and you don't have time to write. Like you just don't. You got a family, you're doing the whole thing. I realized I would always, you probably do this. I don't know you, but I just would guess you do this. You just make up songs
all the
to
time.
your kid.
Yeah.
And they're stupid.
Yeah.
Record them.
Yeah.
On your phone. And rewrite them.
Cool.
Because the hooks are like real.
Yes.
Because you're not thinking about it and you're trying to make your kid laugh or something.
That's a good idea.
I've had a couple of songs where I wrote them and they're super hooky.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, where did that come from? It was a kid song.
Dude, isn't it funny how, kids gravitate towards the most basic do, re, mi,
yeah,
fa,
you say
sol,
they're
la,
basic,
ti,
but they're really, we're just having fun.
I know.
That's what it is. And I think sometimes, like for me, for sure, I'll get too heady.
Yeah.
Like I need this to mean something. I need this to impress so-and-so. Because I'm thinking about this band or this producer or whatever.
Yeah.
I want it to hook. And the more I focus on that, the less good it
I know.
Good it is.
That's a great call. I'm going to do that. I've got one that I repeatedly will sing.
Yeah.
You want me to sing it for you?
Please.
Okay. His name's my son is Walker.
Do you need a guitar?
No. It doesn't. Okay. It's always a cappella.
Okay.
So, and it's often when I'm like holding him, but it goes, Walker Stu. His middle name's Stuart, which is also my middle name and my dad's middle name and my grandmother's maiden name. Walker Stu, he's the man. Clap your feet and stomp your hands. Smile wide with your eyes. Walker Stewart, you're my guy. It's
perfect.
It's a hit.
I did that with my son Ace. I forget the song, but it was very similar, just like making songs up.
And I like how silly it is. Like clap your feet. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
But part of me is like, it's gonna be fun to like, program him like wrong. Like see what happens. Like, yeah, you clap your feet. That's what it's in the song. You stomp your hands. That's probably the extent of which I'll try to like, program him wrong. But it's silly, It's silly, and kids like silly songs.
You'll keep programming the wrong way.
Okay, great. Whether I'm trying to or not.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, y'all should listen to Nirvana now, and they're like all in. And I'm like, oh wait, that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
But they love it. I do want to talk a little bit about that album recently.
I would love to talk about that album.
Like I mentioned at the top of this episode, arguably sounds much different than anything else you've done.
Yeah.
Did some of that, what I want to ask is, was that due to writing, production, all of the above, like the point in your life? And did it freak you out at all?
Are you speaking just like of the like style of music, like the
style's different? The style's different, but I think even because I went to prep for this, I went through a bunch of your records. I don't have time to listen to all of them. I listened to a bunch of the key songs and what I knew, and this record, and I mean this so kindly, is more mature.
Cool,
as it goes, as it should go, right?
Yeah.
But it's it's different.
So what? Okay, so here's maybe,
and that's not a knock on anything.
Oh,
in the
dude,
past.
I don't take it as that. I mean, we're like, no, I don't. There's a couple things I think, and you know, somebody else might point out some other things, but one big thing is that, at some point I realized that I wanted to make records that I wanted to listen to, like that kind of back to that idea of like picking your band. I'm like, if I look at like what I'm drawn to, like what I'm streaming, would songs from this, I want songs from this next project to fit on a playlist of other stuff that I'm currently liking. If I'm not, then what am I doing? You know, if this doesn't resemble, and the first kind of like, that light bulb went on before I made Gun Shy, which was the last studio album that I made before recently. And it's an LA pop record.
Yeah.
And that was a time, it was 2014, 2015 when I, went to LA and like kind of just wrote with people there to at least to start. And I did end up writing a couple songs with Nashville based writers and producers too, but I kind of got like 90% of the record done in LA. And that was totally a function of like, I want to like my music, you know?
Yeah.
And so with this record, I had to look at like, okay, what am I listening to? And it was more organic instruments, but the instruments didn't often sound like, they didn't always sound recognizable, or they weren't like just plainly mic'd, you know? So instruments, the tone of the guitar it was just like kind of weird, you know? I just wanted it to sound a little more interesting.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I was, so that from a sonically, that informed working with Micah.
Yes.
From a writing standpoint, I made a conscious decision to like write more by myself. I had gone, when I moved to town, was only writing by myself. And then I gradually started co-writing more and more until the 2016 album, the pop record, like it was all 100% co-writes.
Oh, do you like co-writing? You seem like a people person. So
I do like co-writing, and I really love making things with people.
Yeah.
I love the process of, I love collaborating on anything.
Yeah.
It's fun. I feel like it's like you get something, and that's the tough thing is like you get something that you wouldn't have gotten before, but then you also sacrifice maybe, and the thing that I was wanting to reconnect with was like this core of like, what do I have to say and how do I say it? And I was hoping, and my intent was to reconnect with how I write, like how I say things, you know, because that is like something that's one of the few things that I have to offer, you know, in terms of what makes me unique was like, how would I say it? And so I really, was putting the time into like going up to my room and being by myself and staring at a blank sheet of paper. It's like, as you know, it's terrifying to like do that. And I think you don't have to do that in this town because there's so many talented people.
Yeah.
And,
but it can also be terrifying to go into a room.
It can be
with someone and be like, oh,
I know, especially if you've never written with them before, or you don't have any ideas, you know, that you're bringing in. But I had just been, Annie and I had just gotten married, and I was kind of, for the years leading up to that, I wasn't really like making anything. I was kind of trying other things out. Like I was doing brand consulting and doing things to try to like honestly avoid the pain of putting something out that you loved and it not like
scary
financially like being something that eases the burden. Because Gun Shy, the pop record, I was like, I love this. And I think Gun Shy was the first time since my first couple records of my career that I felt like a real freedom of, like, I'm just having fun. I'm just doing this for me.
Do you think those first records, so like one of your big songs is called 512, right?
519.
519, sorry.
Yeah.
519, do you feel like, okay, so I'm always curious when an artist has a song that kind of hits.
Mm-hmm.
Do they feel the burden of repeating that? Or do you feel like, whatever, that's what it is, I'm going to go do what I want?
Well, I've definitely felt like, yeah, you want to have another song that does that thing, because it's a little bit like having a car that you are like trying to like lift. And when this rope that is attached to the car is like hooked up to a pulley or a system of pulleys, you can like lift it with one hand. It's like no big deal. Mm-hmm. And that system of pulleys is like a hit song. And I didn't have like a hit song in the terms of like, this wasn't on the radio. It didn't really like, but in the days of like burning CDs for friends and like music spreading, that way, it was kind of a grassroots, like it did connect, and it did.
You have
spread.
Your audience.
I have my
audience. It doesn't have to be a number one song to be a great popular song.
So I'd certainly wanted that to happen again. Did I like try to stylistically duplicate that? No, but I definitely was trying to like have another. And the funny thing is that the record that was on was following up a record that was kind of like the one that people found out about me on. The album was called 23 Places. That was the first record I made with Ed Cash producing. Yeah. And Dave was in like kind of like helping Ed at the time, and ended up kind of he co-produced that record. So it was like me and Dave and Ed making 23 Places, and it really resonated. It took a long time to make because Ed was kind of like would work on it because he was doing it on the cheap for me. And so we had like all this time for new songs to come and to like go back and be like, is that how we want it to be? And so all I had to say, the record with 519 on it was like the one where I was like, man, I've got some big boots to fill here. Yeah. And they're my own boots. And I do feel like we delivered. Now, granted, I don't think that it's you can't really contend with someone's first time hearing your voice. Like you think back to the artist that you're in love with. It's like oftentimes it's that first record, it's that first exposure to that song or a group of songs that like that's what is the definition of that artist, Mm-hmm. And it's tough as an artist to like fight against that, and you just have to kind of Now, I think by the time I got to Gun Shy in 2016, and then certainly with recently, I've like plateaued as far as like feeling this trajectory that happened earlier in my career. So I felt more freedom to just do what I want to do. Yeah. And so with recently, I think, this would have been like my second go at just making something for me.
What was the span between recently and your previous record?
7 years.
Okay. So 7 years.
7 years, which is crazy.
Micah took me to, you did like a CD, an album release. I still say CD release.
Me too.
You did like an album release at a venue called Analog.
Yes.
Micah.
Oh, you went?
I was there.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
You did like 3 nights though, right? I was there for 1 night.
I think I only did 1 night there, and I did a couple of
oh, you did some other shows.
I did some other like things in my backyard actually.
Oh, okay.
That were like album release type.
My takeaway from that show, and the reason I'm saying it is because you mentioned you were really honest on stage. And these are like core people, your core fans came.
Yes.
From all over.
All over.
And you mentioned that you hadn't done this in a long time. You were nervous about doing it.
Yeah.
Nervous about making another record and putting it out there. It was a fantastic show.
Thanks.
you pulled it off great. You're an entertainer for sure.
Thanks.
Even dealing with like hand cramps. I remember that.
Dude,
that was real, man.
It's real. And I mean, if you've ever been in that position before, it's like, it's the most like powerless place
Yeah. You
to be in.
Let go.
Woo.
Oh, but you did a great job. You pulled
Thanks.
it off. But I appreciated your honesty while at the same time clearly having a blast.
Thanks.
And you killed every song. It was great.
It was a fun show.
And this will kind of lead us into talking about Rosalee. Because that's the night I would have first heard this song.
Cool.
That we're talking about.
Yep.
This song and Much to Say
Much to Say.
would be my two favorites on
Amazing.
the record.
Great.
And that night I heard both of them, and those were my two favorites.
Dude, I love that. And obviously we were kind of sorting through what song to talk about, and I was the one having the problem because sometimes, just for our listeners to know, like the artist that I interview will say, what should we do? And send me a few. And of the 4 that you sent, I was like, I can't decide. That's great.
Like those 2 were on my list for sure. But,
cool.
But they're such great. I mean, you're such a great writer, and these songs are just so great. And I only know bits and pieces about Rosalee. Mm-hmm. I know you wrote it with Jon Foreman and Tim Foreman of Switchfoot. I would love to hear about that process that you guys went through, like the writing part, and then what the song's actually about. Yeah. Those kind of things. But let's listen to the work tape, and then we'll jump into all that.
Great.
Rosalee, prettiest leaf on your family tree. Tell me a secret when you close your eyes, baby. Tell me, what world do you see? Rosalee, sometimes this feeling takes over me. But you feel it too as I'm holding you, baby. Or maybe it's you holding me. Oh, Rosalee, darling, please give my love to your mama, darling, please. I was young and I was wrong on my knees. Praying he don't do you harm, babe. I hope he ain't like me, Rosalee. Rosalee, don't let this world send you out to sea. Don't hide who you are when you feel like you're drowning. Remember the truth sets you free. Oh, Rosalee, darling, please give my love to your mom, darling, please. I was young and I was wrong on my knees. Praying he don't do you harm. I hope he ain't like me, Rosalee.
Okay. I love this work tape, first of all.
Thank you.
This, of the work tapes you sent me, this is the most fun one.
Yeah, for sure.
It's got it's almost got like it's a different energy than the record, but it's similar in that it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, this work tape is super playful.
Yeah.
Which I like.
We really were, so maybe to start how the whole like Jon and Tim thing happened. We got connected. I mean, I'd met Jon several times before. Every time I'm like making a fool out of myself because I'm such a fan.
Yes.
You know?
I feel I would do the same thing.
And Jon is is a really peaceful soul, and he kind of like doesn't rescue you from your awkwardness, so he'll just like let you flounder, you know,
just like staring at you,
isn't trying to like help you out of the like whatever meandering stream of consciousness you're talking about, which is like what I would do. So I had just gotten to LA to start writing Gun Shy, and Jamie Torkowski, my friend who started to write Love on Her Arms, saw maybe something I had posted and was like, dude, we're doing a heavy and light event, which is like this like concert a big concert that they would do every year. And there's a lot of like artists who came around to write Love on Her Arms movement. It was going to be at the Hard Rock the House of Blues right on Sunset, I think. And he's like, you want to come and like pop in and do a song or something? I'm like, sure. And literally like had just gotten to LA that day. So it was like really fun, kind of like, I felt like I was like landing in I was being caught by like I was wanted there, and LA is like, can be like a very lonely place. And I went, and like Jon was there. And so I after the show was like, you know, hanging out, chatting, and, you know, there's some people around that I knew, and Jon was there, and you know, somebody asked what I was doing there. I was like, well, I just got here. I'm like writing my next record. And Jon said, well, we should write one. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so I can't.
What were you thinking in that moment? Like,
I was thinking,
you're a fan, a Switchfoot fan, Jon.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no way. He's
just being nice.
Maybe he's being nice. I can't remember. I probably in those situations want to give the person like an out, you know? So I'm like, I know you're probably just like, I'm not going to hold you to that. I know that you're just being nice. Though I can't honestly remember if I can't remember if I got his number personally, or if I'd like, you know, left that introduction happen later. But a couple weeks later, and I like drove down to Encinitas to like San Diego to like write with them. And I went to their studio. They've got a huge space that is, you know, just like got tons of instruments. I mean, it's a playground, you know? And I had just gotten back from holding my newborn niece. I'd gotten to LA, and then got word that my sister was going into labor down in Texas. So I like flew to Texas and was there for the delivery. And I wasn't there in the room, obviously, but I got to hold Rosalee the day that she was born. And that my sister that had Rosalee is the next sister, the one who's like next in line from, you know, like I'm the oldest, she's the second oldest. And I just like, for whatever, whether it was because I felt like she was stealing my thunder or like ruining my party, because I'm 4 years older than her. I just, you know, clashed with her growing up, and was cruel. And
you were alone, and then
I wasn't,
right.
and I was enjoying having the full attention of all the adults. And so I was just like cruel, and we kind of always had a really adversarial relationship. And interestingly enough, my sister has a little boy named Wesley who was exactly 4 years older than Rosalee. Okay. And so there's like this, there's the same age span between Rosalee and her older brother as my sister Abby and me. And so the whole song is talking to this baby and saying, I hope that your big brother isn't as horrible to you as I was to your mom.
Yeah, that's sister. More interesting than how I initially took it, which was like someone you dated.
No.
Like it was like, I hope your new guy's not as bad as I was.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've kind of wondered like how this song, you know,
like it felt like I'm taking ownership of this bad relationship I was in.
That I was in, yeah.
And you know,
Well, in some ways it was, but not a romantic one.
Say hi to your mom, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I knew that I wanted it to kind of feel like Paul Simon for some reason. I don't know. And I think I came in with the title. I was like, I knew I wanted to write that. And then the Paul Simon thing. And I can't remember if the I Hope He Ain't Like Me, Rosalee is something I had ahead of time or not. But
so you go in and you have the title and do you have an idea of what you want to write about Rosalee, or you guys just kind of suss it out on the spot?
I probably said what I told you.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
And then, and then it just unfolds. I found actually some voice memos from the writing session as we were preparing for this. I was like going back to see if there was anything that was like,
that would be cool. If you want to share them, I can weave them into the actual work tape you ended up sending me. But
yeah, but Tim made the work tape.
Yeah.
I mean, and while John and I were kind of like hammering out like, and would have one ear in too. So he wasn't like totally, it wasn't, sometimes when you're writing with somebody who's on the computer, like their back's to you the whole time, but like he was involved, but also, kind of like advancing the ball of the demo. And yeah, the funny thing is, so that song, was written for that, in the writing sessions for that record. And then ultimately I was like, man, it doesn't sound anything like anything else I'm making for this. Right. And it just doesn't fit. Yeah. But it always was one that I thought was cool.
So you wrote it 7 or 8 years before.
Yeah. I wrote it in like 2015.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like,
that's hard to hold on to as a great song for that long.
It is. And also I don't think I knew, you don't know it's sometimes you don't know it's great until you put it out and people say it is. At least I don't. Did you ever just want to be like, man, I wrote this song with, the Foreman. With the Foremans.
Let's put it out, man.
I think honestly, I was so over my career or like music after the Gunshy record didn't like make my life any easier. It just felt, I'm like, man, I don't know what else I can do. Cause I was like, this album is awesome and I can't really do anything better than this. And it's current. It sounds current. It's like all of my friends volunteer that they love it. I'm not asking them. I'm just getting texts. Like, it's like, so I don't know. And it's not like there's no opportunities coming to me. So I don't know what to do. And so I was just kind of like, this is heartbreaking. And I think I probably I've had like a delayed experience of what it's probably like for people trying to get started.
Right.
Which is like, what's a guy got to do? What's a girl got to do? Like, I'm doing the best thing I know how to do.
Yeah. What's the trick?
It's like, being received. And I think and maybe at this point it's just like, dude, you've got to be grateful for like the fact that it even happened ever, and that there is an audience, and that they want to hear the old stuff, but they're also curious about what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So, but all I have to say, I think I was not in any, for a long time, I was not in any kind of like, I wasn't eager to like get on the carousel again.
Let's go down that path for just a second. What do you think brought you out of that?
My wife. We've only been married. We got married in late 2020.
Were you on like the verge of giving up music?
I think I was.
Or you felt that little like glimmer of, I don't know if I should keep going.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. I was like, I don't know what else to do. I don't know how financially it like, is this smart for me to do this? Honestly, and it kind of happened after this record too, where I'm just judging myself pretty harshly, thinking that, cause we can always find somebody who's like winning, you know, and
yes.
to like,
especially in Nashville,
yeah.
living here is not easy even if you have whatever success is,
yes,
you're still gonna have people, especially in Nashville, that are doing more than you.
Yeah. So, and there's always going to be the temptation to compare up, right? Like
yes.
we very rarely compare down. It's just like a weird human thing that we like want. We're like gluttons for punishment or something. At least I am. I like want to feel bad about myself or something. So yeah, I definitely. I think for these last two records did this thing where I was just making it for me. It's like what I wanted to do. I wasn't thinking about it being commercially. I kind of like gave up on having some like commercial hit or something. But then I can't help but like after I put something out, have expectations that it is going to do something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so now I look back at what Gunshy did, and I'm like, dude, Gunshy did great streaming.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like, it's like several of the songs, I like several, million, couple million streams. I'm like, what was I complaining about? Like
sure.
This album is like the top streaming song is Rosalee, and it's like a couple 100,000, which, sure is more than some of my peers, or like more than a lot of people. Great. But when I start thinking about like the financial viability of that, like it's just hard to like make that a viable business because, what is it? 1 million streams is roughly $3,500, maybe $4,000.
Yeah.
And I'm a long way from having 1 million streams, even collectively, I think, at least on Spotify. Now, so yeah, it's definitely, I've had to kind of, and you also asked, what was it that brought me into wanting to make
you
another
said your
record?
wife did.
So Annie was hearing some of the stuff that I had written. Like I wrote that song, Something to Hold On To. Mm-hmm. And I pitched it to the band Camino, who had become friends of mine. And I pitched them just the chorus without verses. And we wrote a couple times together, and they loved that chorus. And so they wrote verses. So as I'm like getting to know Annie, and I'm like trying to be impressive, I'm like playing her stuff that I've written, stuff I'm working on. And she like loves, some of these songs, like, even like Rosalee or something.
Yep.
And she like in general just like loved and loves my music. And there's another thing that was rattling in my head, just like at one point, like a mentor or somebody said to me, like, writers write. So if you're saying that you are a songwriter, like you have to write, like that's what it's in the job description.
Right.
It is fully the job description. Write songs. So with her kind of blessing and encouragement and belief, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this again. And I just like committed myself to the process, and it was really fun. It was early in our marriage. She was building a cake baking business. So she was downstairs baking, and I was upstairs writing songs. And at lunch,
it's a good combo.
I would come down and we would have lunch together. And on the best days, I was like just juiced on cake. An idea that I was juiced on cake. I was just amped about like I was amped about what the song that I was I was trying to crack the code on upstairs, and she had baked something and she was pumped about it, and it was just like this really fun, creative, like alive time.
It's so good to have someone who's a champion for you.
Yes.
Because you can't, like early on when we're young, we can totally, our ego will champion us.
Yeah.
but over time it starts to fade and you're like,
it's true,
man, I really need somebody to
believe in me,
kick me in the butt and say, you're not as bad as you think you are, or whatever.
I know.
Yeah.
You want, you like, I need it.
Yeah.
And she's done that for me. And I think, so she just, and ended up being a record that like largely, a lot of the songs were about the first, couple years of our life together.
Yeah.
That's, Necessary was for her.
Great song.
Thanks.
So good.
Keep Going is like 100% just about like, was a song that I needed to hear.
Yeah, me too.
About like, just, we just put one foot in front of the other. And that song was written on a keyboard. And then that was actually the first tune that Micah and I worked through to decide like, this was like a trial of like, would we work well together?
Yeah.
And that was the song that he essentially picked, like, let's do this one. Like, great. So it was cool to hear how that took a totally different shape.
It's very cool. I told you this week, and you don't have to do this, but I think you should probably think about it. Releasing those 4 songs as work tapes, because those work tapes are very cool.
Cool.
And I wouldn't say that if they were like real trashy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they didn't make sense, but that's my opinion.
Well, hey, you are a work tape pro at this point.
I don't know.
You've heard a lot of work tapes.
I'm just a nerd about it. I want to hear the beginning thing. Like that's where the passion comes out, and the production, that can happen too. But I still feel like sometimes a song gets lost in production, no matter how good it is.
I know. It's true. There's like, aren't there some stories about, well, I know Nebraska.
Oh man.
And Living with Ghosts, Patty Griffin. I think both of those records were essentially work tapes that they just put out, right?
Yes. Nebraska is insane. Like you could take all of his other records out, and that record is just like, sit down with it with headphones or put it on vinyl. It's just ridiculous.
I need to do it.
There's nothing to it.
And I kind of wonder,
great songs.
And you hear like a record like For Emma, Forever Ago, like the Bon Iver record.
Yeah.
And it's so simple and sparse too, but it's like, I think those type of records are like a North Star for me, and that like, it's probably the most important thing for me, that like emotion is communicated, you know?
Well, there's an element of, and this is something that AI will never be able to do, which is like, I'm not exclusively out here listening to like acoustic vocal work tapes.
Sure. Yeah.
On my off time. I love records. I love songs. I love production, but there's a humanness and a rawness that comes out like when you don't have every note perfected and you're still kind of figuring out this song, but you're excited. You can tell, you can hear it in the voice where like, the artist or the writer is excited about this.
Yes.
They're onto something.
Right.
And then they've got you hear that, and it's just so great.
Well, and that was the issue with when we went to re-record Something to Hold On To, because my wife was like, don't change it.
Yeah.
Like just put that out.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not how it works, like mansplaining about, but there was like, I think by the time that I did go into record, like I listened to and I had made the demo of that song, which I know isn't on your list, or, you haven't heard the work tape of it, but I'm not very proficient in Logic or Pro Tools or anything else. And I'm not good enough at like a good enough player to like, that just takes me so long typically. Yeah. So, but like on rare occurrences, I will, flesh something out. And I did for Something to Hold On To. I was like nursing a broken heart. It was the last broken heart that I would have before I met my wife. And it's like so palpable.
Yeah.
It's a very like emotional, angsty song. And I just wanted to make sure that was like also communicated in the recording. And we ended up like borrowing a lot of the stuff from what I did, you know, I think Micah's great about that too. He's like, this is working for me. So let's just, whether it's like a weird sample that was in there or like parts that I think we like literally flew some guitar stuff, and he's just not precious about it. And that's what's cool about him too, is that he's like, he'll
lean into what you want as well.
Speaking of Rosalee, like the kazoo solo on the bridge, I mean, we like literally like used that from the worktape. Yeah. The worktape is real jangly, like high strung guitars. And I can't remember whose idea. I'll go ahead and give Micah the credit for like the idea of like playing it ding 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 on I think it was like a rubber bridge guitar. And if I would have had my way on this record, and I'm so thankful that he didn't let me, because of the moment that we were in, every song would have been on a rubber bridge guitar. But thankfully he like showed restraint there, and he has
muted strings and contact mics.
Yes. So it is there on some of the songs, but it's not like, hopefully it won't be such a like timestamp that it won't feel like something that you could listen to in 10 years. But I had Melissa Fuller, my songwriter friend, who also is like a great singer, come in and like sing backing vocals on several of the songs. And she sang on Rosalee, and Micah had this character, kind of like what he wanted this backing vocalist to sound like. Yeah. And he was like coaching her and like, okay, it's like this is the character you're playing as you're singing this song. And like, she totally nailed it. And yeah, it's just this got so much energy. It still kind of feels very like, to me, like Paul Simon-y. And I'm not like somebody who knows Paul Simon's music well enough to like, but it gives me the same kind of like energy that a Paul Simon song.
Yeah.
Might,
I can hear that.
But yeah, I don't know. What else do you want to know about that?
What I want to know
song
is what you think. Give me like 2 minutes on this. Like, you mentioned about streaming and stuff, and this is a topic that keeps coming up. As an independent artist, you're not with a major label, are you?
No.
You're not on a label right now?
No.
So what is your take on this? Like the whole streaming thing? Because you already said the numbers and like it's not a viable financial.
I'm sad.
Yeah. Like we talked, our mutual friend Thad Cockrell was on, and we got into it with him.
Yep.
And I get the feeling, and I think I could speak for him on this, like he wants to sink the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what is your take? Like
my take is,
and where's it going, do you think?
Oh man,
that's too hard.
I feel like I am, when it comes to things that just feel like big things, I'm just observing. Yeah. And I kind of like reserve comment only because I'm like, we're in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think sometimes anybody that, I don't know, I wonder if people that have predictions or are able to like articulate in the moment what this means are just like really looking to try to like for control of something that they don't have. Mm-hmm. And the reality is like, it's chaos right now. It's something that, and I'm almost 46 years old, and I've had a career for over 20 years. So it looks a lot different than it did when I started. Now, I don't know that 18, 17-year-old kids are complaining about what it is.
Why is that? I have a theory, but I want to know what you think.
It's like what they know. And I I just don't want to be, I don't want to be the old person complaining about about the good old days.
Yeah.
Like I want to be someone who's adaptable, who's open to like rolling with the punches. And I also don't think I'm entitled I'm not entitled to continue to have a career. I've had a great one.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I get to keep having one. And I've not been promised. I'm like living the dream, dude.
Yeah.
I'm living the dream. Are you kidding me? I woke up this morning. I didn't have to go to work anywhere. I exercised, came home, played with my son, put him down for a nap, and then I came here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like any day, like every day I get to do this is like bonus.
Sure. But if you want to keep doing it, do you feel like something needs to change?
I've got to adapt.
You have to adapt.
I have to adapt.
What does that mean?
That means that, well, for me, I have a rental property.
Mm-hmm.
I have a commercial side project.
Other income.
Okay. I have, I am basically like totally operating outside of the music industry. I have a booking agent, but that's it. I do like a lot of private shows in fans' backyards.
Mm-hmm.
It honestly harkens back to the beginning of my career where I was like scrappy and I was just trying to figure out how to make it work.
Right.
So in some ways I'm like, I'm in that spot again. And now, yeah, I can be angry about the fact that like I've spent 24 years doing something that has gotten me zero job security. And I can say like, man, if I would have, but like there's no job security anywhere.
No.
There's
no real security in
life,
major label publishing, all this stuff. Because how many guys people I've talked to that have been dropped 80 times in their career.
Right.
And they're still just like what you're saying, have to be scrappy and figure it out.
You either do, or you go sell real estate, which like is a legit option.
Of course.
And, and I took, honestly, like at the beginning of this year, it took a couple of days to like, I went out to his cabin, which I have done for the last like 7 or 8 years, except for last year when we had a newborn, and just like reflect on the year the previous year and like the one ahead. And I had to like do some reckoning on like, what am I going to do this year? And what do I want to do? And I realized that a lot of the voices that were kind of like, I was listening to in my head that were like really kind of judgmental and condemning and critical of like my career were just, it's like my own thoughts about it.
Yeah.
And that like, nobody else is thinking that, or if they are, I'm not aware of it. And I ultimately can't concern myself with what someone else thinks about my career. The reality is, my career is still viable. We're still able, but between all the little things that we've got going on, it still makes sense for me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I enjoy doing it and, it brings me joy. Like I want my children to see me laboring in joy and like doing work that I love and that I get lost in. And like, that would be like a huge win if they get to see me working on things that I love, you know, and invigorated at the end of a day instead of like sitting down on the couch and like turning on the TV and just like zoning out.
Yeah.
So I like, there's so much upside now. But yeah, it feels like I'm in a foreign country.
Yes.
I don't know like the language. I don't know the currency. So I'm just kind of like, well, what do I know? I'll just do this.
Do you think the currency is, this is what I think. Do you think or agree with this statement? You think the currency is attention now?
Oh, it's got to be. Yeah.
Over money. It's got to be, because if 1 million streams equals $3,500 or whatever, that's not a lot of money for 1 million streams. And you used to be able to sell 1 million albums, and that meant something financially.
So, yeah. So go further on the currency being attention.
We're settling for attention versus an income.
Yeah.
Versus producing a business off of what you're doing.
Oh, and maybe the reason why young people are satisfied with it is because they're getting attention.
Social media.
Yep.
It's all about numbers. It's all about the dopamine hit. We're settling for addiction.
Well, and the truth is, that's something that I like, I've got to score up to too, is like, hey, are you,
it's all of us. I don't mean just kids, but we're all settling.
Yeah.
And it's not the easy path to do something like Thad is doing, or some of the other indie artists that are like, I do have to adapt if I want to keep making an income at this.
Yep.
I've got to figure something out. And I've got to appeal to my fan base, not everyone else.
Because it is the music business.
Yes.
And now what you said, like, would I still write songs if I wasn't like, yeah, I would. But right now I'm like, as long as I'm trying to participate in the music business, there are considerations that have to be factored in, that like, this is a business. Yeah. How is your business? What is the health of your business? What does it actually look like? And are you comfortable with the, what's being asked of you in order to, make that income? I own all my masters. I own all my publishing. I have a big email list from years of doing this. Mm-hmm. There are things that some things in place that make it possible for me to, and I've always had a strong connection with my fans. It's like it might be the thing that like afforded me a career from the beginning, is that like I like really strove to like connect with people. And as a music fan, like first, like I feel like there's commonality in me and someone who likes my music. Right. Because like I know what it's like. I love music. And so yeah, I wouldn't know how to tell somebody to start a career today. I feel like totally out on what it is. I'm personally just trying to like come back to the basics of like, all right, well then like what is it that makes you? Yeah, and
that's smart.
How can you like, and then what do you want to do with that? And
that keeps it authentic as well, because your fans are going to be able to sniff the BS of, let me try to get with like whatever the cultural norm is, or whatever the kids are listening to these days, or whatever.
And then you're, and I've wondered like, is there like some amount that you can do of just like, it's like wise to like, have some kind of commercial, like be thinking a little bit about like the commercial viability of the song.
If you can do it, you can do it and it's authentic, I still think it's got to be, just start writing kids songs.
Oh, dude. Well, and I don't have the energy. To hustle like I did when I was 20.
And you're going to have 2 little ones. It's like a whole thing.
It's a thing. And I'm like, I'm not going to, like, I can't do anything but be me, because it just takes too much energy. Yeah. So yeah, I think as far as the music industry is concerned, like, I don't know, but I kind of feel like I'm operating just outside of it.
Yeah.
And I am curious about what Thad did. I think there's some version of that could be interesting, in terms of like, selling a vinyl for like $100 or more than normal, and keeping it off of streaming. My issue with it is like, I actually want people to listen to my music, you know?
And that's the
it's tough to ask people to do something, to like start a new behavior, by, if you're the only one doing it. And so if there was my wife had a great idea that I think is kind of cool. Like, how Substack, the email platform. Yep. And I have a Substack, and you can subscribe to my Substack. You can either be a free subscriber and get whatever posts I earmark as like, you can read all of this, or you can be a paid subscriber and you can get all of it. And what if Spotify allowed for rights holders to essentially like charge for subscriptions to their songs? And that could be for a given period of time. So like in the case of like, let's say with Thad's record, he could have his old stuff on there that's like fully available, and maybe on his new record he could like have 2 songs that are available for everybody to stream. But if you want the whole thing, or if you want the whole catalog, it's going to cost you like $2, $3 a month, maybe. I don't know what the number is, but it's all done within the app that everybody's already using anyway. And now granted, like I would say, major labels probably would not put any restrictions or paywalls up on, but like for people like us who, are, who probably need it, it could be an interesting way to like,
it is interesting,
to have a little more injection of cash. But then you're asking people to pay more,
right?
And they're already spending more on music now than they ever have. As a whole, like most people didn't spend $10 a month on music. People weren't buying a CD every month of the year. Like maybe you and I were.
I definitely was.
Okay. But like the average person, my mom, was not, and she's a Spotify subscriber. Mm-hmm. She pays whatever, $12.99, whatever it is now a month. So there's like more people. People are spending more money on music than they ever have.
It's interesting. I'm going to be really interested to look back on this in like 10 years and see these conversations like, well, we were idiots, or like, oh, we were onto something.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, I don't know that it's going to go backward.
No.
Like, because we just have more tech.
Yeah.
It's like more tech's coming. Like, I think the genie's out of the bottle. There, like the toothpaste is out of, I just don't know. In some ways too, I think about like how many, think back to like the 80s and like, or 70s, how many people were allowed to have a career at music, right? Like,
oh yeah,
not many. Mm-mm. So now, because the barrier to entry is like so low, everything you need is on the new laptop that you buy.
That's right. You can build your career on YouTube. You don't even have to put it on Spotify.
You don't even have to put it on Spotify. So there is like a correction. It's like there's probably more people making a living than in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But I just don't know that everybody can.
Yeah.
Like not everybody that does this gets to do it. And I don't have a problem with that. And I also don't have a problem with like,
that's just normal life.
That's just life. I'm also totally fine with like, yeah, dude, you're old. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
It's like, it's somebody else's turn.
Right.
It's rare to find anybody 30 years into their career, 40 years into the career, still making compelling music. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even saying that I am. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like, it's rare and look at what I'm doing. I'm saying like, this is the natural progression of an artist.
Yeah.
Is it like you get to a place and you get comfortable and it's hard to write compelling music.
Yes.
So I just, I don't know. I think there's a couple of things happening at the same time for me and some of my friends. We're all like of a certain age now. We've had certain, length of careers, and the industry is also majorly disruptive.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a bunch of us who are like, which way's up?
Right.
What do we do?
Yeah.
And it's exciting and terrifying, and it's life,
It's life. Last question.
Yes.
Ready? This is a 1-word answer. If you can do it. If you can do it.
Okay.
No one can, but you can go listen to one record as if you've heard it again for the first time. Oh. What is it?
You're going to have to edit out all of this quiet.
I don't know. It's dramatic pause. There's so many.
Oh my gosh. You are a mean-spirited person.
I am.
Dude.
I'm good at being mean.
Well, let's just say, I think it would be,
You're going to settle. You have to settle.
Thriller.
Going right back to the top of this episode.
It's called a callback, my friend.
That's right.
Thriller. Yeah.
I love that answer. It informed your childhood.
Yeah.
I also agree with
Bad
you.
but Bad's amazing.
Bad's amazing.
Bad was, I was like in 4th or 5th grade, and dude, Black or White.
Oh yeah, man.
And
that was on Dangerous. That was on, was it called Dangerous?
That was Dangerous.
Yeah.
Bad was Bad.
Mm-hmm. Was Bad on? Was Bad
PYT? Was PYT on Bad?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyway, Thriller. Final answer.
Great. Matt Wertz, thanks for being
Brandon,
here.
Thank you so much, man.
That was fun.
Me.
What do you have coming up?
I'm dropping a new son, or actually, I don't know if it's a son or a daughter. I'm dropping a new baby. My wife's dropping a baby.
We're not dropping babies.
Babies. We're not shaking babies. We're not dropping babies. But that'll be in July. So I'm trying to play as many backyard shows as possible between now and June.
We should do one here with what's
great. Yeah. We'll talk about it. I'm trying to play as much as possible so I can make as much money so that I can be present for my family.
Well, it's very lucky that you got to make an appearance on this show. It's just going to do nothing but bring you money and fame.
Dude, that's what I'm here for, man.
Great.
Bring it on.
Worktapes is produced by me, Brandon Carswell. Filming and editing by Sean Carswell. Special thanks to Matt Wertz. You can find more info on Matt at mattwertz.com. Like and subscribe to Worktapes everywhere you listen to your favorite podcast.